Hello, my name is Anni-Frid, the last day in ABBA.
What if I told you that one of the world's most beloved pop stars was born from a Nazi occupation, hunted as a child, became royalty twice, and harbored a family secret so dark it threatened to destroy everything she built? This is the extraordinary true story of Anni-Frid Lyngstad, and the rarest details of her life will shock you. While Anni-Frid Lyngstad may not be the most commercially prominent member of ABBA in terms of solo career longevity, she undeniably lived the most dramatic and colorful life of the quartet. It's exceptionally rare for a commoner, even a globally famous one, to ascend through the ranks of European aristocracy not once, but twice. Yet Frida, as she's affectionately known, accomplished precisely that. The question that haunts biographers and fans alike is, how did she navigate such an extraordinary journey despite a deeply controversial past that could have derailed her at any moment? And how did she balance the relentless demands of international superstardom with the rigid protocols of royal life? Before we dive deeper, here's something most people don't know. Frida was technically stateless for the first years of her life. She wasn't recognized as Norwegian because of her German father, and Sweden initially refused her citizenship. This limbo status would have profound effects on her sense of identity and belonging, themes that would haunt her music and personal life for decades. Though Anni-Frid's life ultimately became a fairy tale, the beginning was nothing short of traumatic. On November 15, 1945, as World War II's final embers still smoldered across Europe, she was born in the small Norwegian village of Bjørkåsen, near Ballangen in northern Norway. Her mother was Anni Lyngstad, a young Norwegian woman barely out of her teens. Her father was Alfred Hasse, a German Wehrmacht sergeant stationed in Norway as part of the Nazi occupation forces. What makes Frida's story even more extraordinary, and this is rarely discussed, is that she was likely conceived as part of the Lebensborn program, Hitler's attempt to create a master race by encouraging relations between SS officers and Nordic women deemed racially pure. While not all German-Norwegian relationships fell under this program, the timing and circumstances of her parents' relationship suggest this possibility. This historical connection would later add another layer of complexity to her already controversial origins. When the war ended in May 1945, chaos erupted across Norway. Alfred Hasse attempted to flee back to Germany with other retreating Nazi forces. For decades, Frida believed the story she'd been told, that her father's ship had been torpedoed by Allied forces and he had perished at sea. This convenient death was actually a fabrication, a protective lie told by her mother to shield her daughter from an even more painful truth. In Norway, the retribution against German girls, Norwegian women who had fraternized with Nazi soldiers, was swift and brutal. These women, including Anni, were publicly shamed, their heads were shaved, and they were marked as traitors. Their children, derisively called Teskerbarna, German children, faced systematic persecution and discrimination. It's estimated that between 10,000 and 12,000 such children were born in Norway during the occupation. Fearing for her infant daughter's life as anti-German hysteria reached fever pitch, Anni made the agonizing decision to send baby Anni-Frid to live with her maternal grandmother, Arntine Agni Lyngstad. In 1947, when Frida was just 2 years old, grandmother and granddaughter became refugees, fleeing across the border into neutral Sweden. They settled in Torshälla, near Eskilstuna, where Agni worked grueling odd jobs, cleaning, sewing, whatever she could find, to keep them alive. Anni remained behind in Norway, working as a seamstress and sending whatever meager money she could scrape together to support her daughter and mother. The separation was meant to be temporary, but fate had other plans. The constant stress, malnutrition, and harsh conditions took a devastating toll on young Anni's health. Here's a heartbreaking detail rarely mentioned. When Anni finally made it to Sweden to reunite with her daughter and mother in 1948, 3-year-old Frida didn't recognize her own mother. They had only a few precious months together before tragedy struck. At just 21 years old, Anni Lyngstad died of kidney failure on May 28, 1949. Some biographers suggest her death was hastened by the trauma and physical abuse she endured, as punishment for her relationship with a German soldier. Within 4 years of being born, Anni-Frid was an orphan, stateless, poor, and marked by the stigma of being a German child. She had every reason to fail, every excuse to give up. Instead, she would become a legend. The trauma of her early years left young Frida painfully shy and withdrawn. She barely spoke, retreating into a shell of silence. Her grandmother, Agni, recognizing the depths of her granddaughter's pain, used the one tool she had: music. Agni would sing traditional Swedish and Norwegian folk songs to little Frida, her voice carrying melodies of a homeland they'd been forced to flee. These lullabies and folk songs became Frida's lifeline, her connection to joy in a childhood overshadowed by loss. Music became her language when words failed her. It's a detail that makes her later success with ABBA even more poignant. The girl who couldn't speak found her voice through song. When Frida started school in 1952 at age 7, she remained the quiet girl in the corner. But her teachers gradually discovered something remarkable. When coaxed to sing, this silent child transformed. Her voice, even then, carried an unusual emotional depth, what one teacher described as old beyond her years. They encouraged her to perform for the class, slowly building her confidence through music. The turning point came when Frida was just 13 years old. In 1958, she landed her first professional job singing with the Evald X Orchestra, a local dance band that played Schlager, popular Schlager music, and traditional Swedish dance tunes. This was highly unusual, a young teenage girl fronting an adult dance orchestra, but her voice was so mature, so compelling, that she could hold her own alongside seasoned musicians twice her age. Here's a fascinating detail. Frida's early stage name was Frida Lyngstad from Eskilstuna. She deliberately used her mother's Norwegian surname rather than taking her grandmother's Swedish married name, one of her first acts of reclaiming the identity she'd been forced to hide. In 1963, at age 18, Frida married her first husband, Ragnar Fredriksson, a fellow musician. He was older, established, and represented stability, everything she'd never had. They had 2 children together, Hans Ragnar, born in 1963, and Ann-Lisa Lotta, born in 1967. Together, Frida and Ragnar formed several musical groups with varying degrees of local success, including the vocal duo Frida och Ragnar and a quartet. But Frida's talent was clearly outgrowing the small-town circuit. The marriage became strained as her ambitions expanded beyond Ragnar's comfort zone. The night that changed everything came on September 3, 1967. Frida entered the Swedish national talent competition Nya Ansikten, New Faces, held in Malmö. When she discovered that part of winning meant appearing on national television, she nearly backed out. Her stage fright was still intense, her insecurities about being a German child still raw, but she pushed through her fear. That night, she performed and won with such stunning emotional power that Sweden's music industry went into overdrive. Talent scouts and record executives descended on her like a swarm. EMI Sverige, who held her contract as part of the competition prize, panicked that they might lose her to competitors. Here's the rarely told part. The very next morning, at dawn, EMI executives drove the 120 kilometers from Stockholm to Frida's modest home in Eskilstuna with a binding contract in hand. They literally woke her up and made her sign it on the spot, ensuring no rival label could steal their discovery. It was aggressive, arguably exploitative, but it launched her career. By 1968, Frida had separated from Ragnar. They would divorce in 1970. That same year, she released her first solo album, Frida, in collaboration with keyboardist and composer Benny Andersson. The album achieved moderate success in Sweden, but more importantly, it put Frida on the radar of Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus, who were already an established musical couple. In 1972, the supergroup ABBA was formally born, bringing together Agnetha Fältskog, Björn Ulvaeus, Benny Andersson, and Anni-Frid Lyngstad. The name itself was an acronym of their first names, a democratic gesture that belied the complex dynamics within the group. While all 4 were successful in Sweden, none had broken through internationally. Together, they would become one of the best-selling music groups of all time. But 1971 had been brutal for Frida. Her beloved grandmother Agni, the woman who had sacrificed everything to save and raise her, died. Just weeks later, her divorce from Ragnar was finalized. She was starting ABBA while drowning in grief and loss. Yet somehow, she channeled that pain into performances of stunning emotional authenticity. ABBA's breakthrough came with their 1974 Eurovision Song Contest victory with Waterloo. What followed was unprecedented global success throughout the mid to late 1970s. The group became Sweden's second largest export after Volvo, generating more revenue than the country's steel industry. Swedish tax law infamously took up to 85% of their earnings, but even after taxes, all four members became extraordinarily wealthy. Here's what most fans don't realize. Frida was the technical powerhouse of ABBA's sound. While Agnetha had the crystal-clear tone that defined many of their hits, Frida possessed the greater vocal range and power. She could belt, she could croon, she could handle jazz phrasing that was far beyond typical pop territory. Songs like Knowing Me, Knowing You, The Name of the Game, and Fernando showcased her rich, mature voice. Her lead vocals on I Have a Dream and Cassandra revealed depths of emotion that still resonate decades later. During ABBA's golden years, Frida and Benny's relationship deepened. They married on October 6, 1978, in a ceremony that seemed to seal both their personal and professional partnership. Meanwhile, Agnetha and Björn had married in 1971. ABBA appeared to be two perfect couples making perfect music, a fairy tale set to a disco beat. But behind the glittering stage costumes and chart-topping hits, darkness was gathering. One night in 1977, during an interview, Frida recounted the story she'd always believed, that her father had died fleeing Norway in 1945, killed when Allied forces sank his ship. It was the narrative she'd been told her entire life, the tragedy that explained her origins without forcing her to confront uncomfortable truths. But a teenage reader of the German magazine Bravo noticed inconsistencies in Frida's story. The magazine's journalists launched a thorough investigation into her family background, and what they uncovered was explosive. Alfred Haas, Frida's father, hadn't died in 1945. He had made it back to Germany, married and raised another family, living quietly in Bavaria. When the magazine published their findings, the story made international headlines. Frida's half-brother Peter Haas saw the article and showed it to Alfred, confronting him with the truth. Here's the part that's rarely discussed. When Peter asked his father if he'd been a Nazi, Alfred's answers were evasive but damning. Records showed he'd been a Wehrmacht sergeant, stationed in northern Norway as part of the occupation forces from 1941 to 1945. Whether he was a committed Nazi ideologue or simply a soldier following orders remained murky, but the association was undeniable. For Frida, the revelation was devastating on multiple levels. Not only had she been lied to her entire life, but the truth meant confronting the reality that she was the daughter of a Nazi occupier, the very thing Norwegian society had punished her mother for. The shame that had defined her childhood came roaring back. Remarkably, by 1977, enough time had passed since World War II that public reaction was more sympathetic than condemning. People recognized Frida as a victim of circumstances beyond her control. Still, the psychological impact on her was profound. Even more remarkably, Frida chose to reach out to Alfred. In 1977, father and daughter met for the first time since she was an infant. Their relationship over the following decades was complicated, periods of closeness alternating with long silences. Frida has spoken carefully about these reunions, acknowledging the relationship while maintaining distance from his wartime actions. Alfred Haas died in 2009 at age 90, and Frida attended his funeral, a gesture of reconciliation, though not necessarily forgiveness. By the early 1980s, the perfect facade of ABBA was cracking. Agnetha and Björn's marriage ended in divorce in 1979, though they continued working together professionally with increasing strain. The personal became inextricably tangled with the professional. Frida and Benny's marriage was also deteriorating, though they tried to hide it. They divorced in 1981, And while the official statements cited the pressures of fame and conflicting schedules, the reality was darker. Decades later, it emerged that Benny had struggled with alcoholism throughout much of their relationship, a secret carefully guarded from the public. His addiction, combined with the intense pressure of ABBA's success and constant touring, made the marriage unsustainable. What's rarely discussed is how isolated Frida felt during this period. She's mentioned in interviews that being in ABBA meant living in a bubble, cut off from normal life, constantly touring, constantly performing, never having space to process her emotions. The divorce from Benny left her feeling adrift, questioning everything she'd built. ABBA performed together for the last time in 1982, though they never officially announced a breakup. They simply stopped. The world expected Frida to quietly retire, to enjoy her millions and fade into obscurity. Frida had other plans. After ABBA, Frida launched a solo career that was more artistically ambitious than commercially calculated. Her 1982 album, Something's Going On, produced by Phil Collins, achieved international success, particularly in Europe. The title track dealt explicitly with the pain of her divorce from Benny, transforming personal anguish into art. But the most dramatic transformation in Frida's life was about to begin, and it started with a chance encounter at a party. In 1986, at a party following a performance, Frida met Prince Heinrich Rousseau-Reuss of Plauen, a German aristocrat from one of Europe's oldest noble families. The House of Reuss traces its lineage back to the 12th century, and Heinrich was both a prince of the Holy Roman Empire and Count of Plauen. He was handsome, cultured, educated, and, crucially, completely unintimidated by her fame. Here's what made their relationship work. Heinrich saw Frida, not ABBA's Frida. He treated her as an equal, not as a celebrity to be managed. They fell deeply in love, and Frida made the bold decision to leave London, where she'd been living, and move with Heinrich to his family estate in Switzerland. On August 26, 1992, Frida and Heinrich married in a ceremony that blended her pop star glamour with his aristocratic heritage. Upon marriage, Frida became Princess Reuss, Countess of Plauen, actual European royalty. For a girl who'd been born stateless and persecuted, who'd hidden her German heritage in shame, the transformation was almost unbelievable. But here's what's truly remarkable. Frida didn't just play princess. She embraced her role with genuine dedication, learning the protocols, supporting Heinrich's environmental causes. He was a passionate advocate for sustainable architecture and renewable energy, and building genuine friendships within European aristocratic circles. One of her closest friendships developed with Queen Sylvia of Sweden, herself a commoner who married into royalty. The two women bonded over their shared experiences of navigating aristocratic expectations while maintaining their own identities. Frida became a regular guest at Swedish royal functions, treated not as a celebrity curiosity, but as a genuine member of elite circles. The crucial detail: the European aristocracy accepted Frida not despite her pop star past, but in part because of her extraordinary personal fortune and global fame. She wasn't a fortune hunter, she had her own wealth. She wasn't seeking fame, she already had more than most royals. She was simply a woman who loved a prince, and that authenticity won over even the most snobbish critics. For 7 years, Frida lived what appeared to be a fairy tale ending. She and Heinrich divided their time between Switzerland and Sweden, pursued charitable work together, and by all accounts, had a deeply loving marriage. Then came the devastating blow. On October 29, 1999, Heinrich died of lymphoma. He was only 49 years old. Frida, at 54, was a widow, and once again facing uncertainty about her place in the world. According to aristocratic protocol, widows of princes sometimes lose their titles upon remarriage or can be pressured to distance themselves from their late husband's family. Frida faced a precarious position. Without Heinrich, would she still be welcome in the royal circles that had embraced her? The answer revealed the depth of the relationships she'd built. The Reuss family, along with Queen Sylvia and the Swedish royal family, made it clear that Frida retained her title of Dowager Princess Reuss of Plauen and would always be considered part of their families. It was a testament to her character and the genuine bonds she'd formed. In the years following Heinrich's death, Frida slowly rebuilt her life. She maintained her home in Switzerland and continued her environmental advocacy work, a cause Heinrich had been passionate about. She also became a patron of the arts, supporting museums and musical education programs. Then, in 2008, Frida found love again. She began a relationship with Henry Smith, 5th Viscount Hambledon, a British peer and member of the W.H. Smith family, the British retail dynasty. While they never married, they became long-term partners, dividing their time between Switzerland and England. Here's the extraordinary part. Frida, the war child refugee, was now connected to two different European aristocratic families, moving comfortably in the highest social circles of multiple countries. She had achieved what seemed impossible: complete social acceptance and genuine respect from the most traditional and exclusive social strata in Europe. For nearly 4 decades, ABBA remained disbanded, despite endless offers for reunion tours worth hundreds of millions of dollars. All 4 members had to agree, and for years, someone always said no. Frida, in particular, was reluctant. She'd moved on, built a new life, and had no desire to be defined solely by her ABBA past. She'd become Princess Frida, environmental advocate, patron of the arts. Why go backward? But in 2016, all 4 members agreed to reunite for a one-time project, the ABBA Voyage virtual concert experience, featuring digital avatars of the band. What changed Frida's mind? According to interviews, it was the artistic challenge and the opportunity to control the narrative. They weren't going to be oldies act touring for nostalgia money. They were creating something innovative, using cutting-edge technology to preserve their legacy on their own terms. The resulting album, Voyage, released in 2021, was both a critical and commercial triumph, debuting at #1 in numerous countries. For Frida, now 76, it was validation that she could return to ABBA without sacrificing the independence and dignity she'd fought so hard to maintain. The rarest facts. 1. She's an accomplished painter. In the 1980s and 1990s, Frida seriously pursued visual arts, creating abstract paintings that were exhibited in small galleries. She never traded on her fame in the art world, exhibiting under variations of her married names. 2. She's a synesthete. Frida has spoken about experiencing colors when she hears music, a neurological condition called synesthesia that may explain the emotional depth of her vocal interpretations. 3. She was offered the lead role in the original stage production of Evita in London's West End in the late 1970s. She turned it down, later saying she regretted the decision, but was too overwhelmed by ABBA's schedule at the time. 4. She speaks 5 languages fluently: Swedish, Norwegian, German, English, and French. She learned French during her years living in Switzerland and can conduct sophisticated conversations about art and politics in the language. 5. She's a serious environmentalist who quietly funds renewable energy research. Through the Heinrich Rousseau-Royce Foundation, established in her late husband's memory, she's donated millions to sustainable technology development, but always anonymously. 6. She maintains a close relationship with her children and grandchildren who've been carefully shielded from media attention. Unlike many celebrity families, they've managed to maintain genuine privacy, a tribute to Frida's fierce protection of family boundaries. 7. She turned down multiple offers to write or authorize an autobiography, reportedly saying she'd already told her story through her music and saw no need to profit from explaining herself further. Taking a cross-section of Anni-Frid Lyngstad's life and career, she faced obstacles that would have destroyed most people. Born in wartime occupation to a reviled relationship, orphaned before age 4, raised in poverty as a refugee, marked with shame as a German child, discovering her father's Nazi past at the height of her fame, enduring public divorces, losing her second husband to cancer. Through it all, she maintained grace, dignity, and an uncompromising commitment to authenticity. What makes Frida's story truly extraordinary isn't just that she survived these challenges. It's that she transformed each setback into a foundation for growth. She used music to find her voice when trauma had stolen it. She turned shame about her origins into curiosity about her heritage. She converted the pain of divorce into artistic fuel. She channeled grief into environmental activism. Today, at 79, Frida lives quietly in Switzerland, occasionally appearing at ABBA-related events, but primarily focused on her charitable work and private life. She remains on excellent terms with her former bandmates, with the Ryus family, with Swedish and British royalty, and with her own family. She represents something increasingly rare, a celebrity who successfully transitioned into genuine post-fame dignity, who earned respect not through carefully managed public relations, but through substantive personal growth and contribution. From war child to pop goddess to princess, twice, Anni-Frid Lyngstad didn't just survive an extraordinary life. She conquered it on her own terms with her voice and her indomitable will. In doing so, she proved that origins don't determine destinations, that shame can transform into strength, and that even the girl born into the world's darkest chapter can write her own bright ending. That is the story of Frida. The story the world thought it knew, but rarely understood in all its complexity, tragedy, and ultimate triumph. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, stay with me. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos about Hollywood stars. See you in the next one.